We did it. One more sleep until the first round of the Monster Energy AMA Supercross season is here. We have talked about the 450 Premier class in the first 4 episodes of our Monster Energy AMA Supercross rider review series, but I think it's time to shift our focus to the 250cc or lights class. We have 4 main riders to talk about in this episode, and towards the end of this episode, we'll rattle off some of the other West Coast riders who we think will have a chance at podiums, wins, or even an outside shot at the championship. Most notably is the SoCal kid comes back to California. Haiden Danger Boy Deegan, Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha rider, is ready to pick up his first 250 Supercross championship. Alongside him will be Austin Faulkner, who recently moved over to the Triumph Factory Racing squad. The chef is back. Levi Kitchen is back with Monster Energy Pro Series Kawasaki with an all-new 2025 KX250 and Honda HRC's title hopeful Joe Shimoda. Let's start with Joe Shimoda, who I think I probably have the most to talk about. Some of the other riders that kind of know what to expect heading into their sophomore, even junior year seasons. With Joe, I really think that if he can start the year off on the right foot, he can put himself into this title fight. But if he continue what he has done over the past few years, put himself in a bad spot heading to the night show, going in behind the 8 ball, heading into the season with a new bike, injury, it's really going to eliminate him early on in the title fight with such a stacked 250 West division.
Yeah, you're right, man. The contenders he's competing against leave very little room for error or even just partial result or performance. He's got to be on top of it from practice, qualifying, get good gate picks, get good starts, and get a good gate pick for the main and a good start for the main. Because as we've seen with Haiden Deegan, if you give him an inch, he's going to take a mile. And he proved that last year in indoors, this year in outdoors. And as we know, Joe Shimoda, or I like to call him Shimoto, steal that from us if you like to, man. I hope you do. He's shown to be a very headstrong rider. He seems to be pretty good at not making mistakes. I know he made a few last year, but overall, he seems very consistent, thought out, takes good lines. So hoping he can build off of that. And now this year, it is his second year on the Honda. So he's got some experience with the bike, experience with the team. He's know what he's getting into this year with the team. And hopefully just has a good stepping stone onto A1. And it's just ready to compete because it is going to be a very competitive class in the 250s for anybody wanting to get in the top 5.
Mm-hmm. 2 big changes for Joe Shimoda's program is the move to Florida. He stayed in California. Not only with that, he changed trainers, the whole program and offseason prep heading into Anaheim 1 this year in 2025 is quite different for Joe Shimoda. And I think the change of scenery going from the West Coast over the East Coast, but coincidentally is racing the West Coast still. I think it's a good change for him to kind of break up the monotony of the preseason grind, kind of see something different, ride some other tracks, and even ride with other riders. He's riding at the Motor Sandbox. Most notably who rides there is Ken Roxon. So he's seeing a guy who is day in and day out running the top pace or top speed of the Premier 450 class. So if he could be right there in the mix, hanging on to the rear wheel of Kenny for a little bit, I think Joe Shimoda will be in a good spot heading into Anaheim. So the SoCal kid is coming back to California after racing the East Coast for a few years. He also moved to North Carolina, then back to Florida for a little bit, fiddled around on the East Coast, but the Monster Energy Star Racing Yamaha rider goes back to Cali, and I'm super stoked to see a SoCal kid who really made it in the pro division. We see a lot of up-and-coming fast kids here at our local tracks in Southern California, but not a lot of them get the true shot at being a top pro. Some riders be on a factory team or even a high-level factory-supported team for maybe a year or 2, then they get clipped because of an injury or just not putting in the results right away. But I'm super stoked to see a kid who comes from a good family, backing and support from the SoCal community actually make it and come back. So hopefully Haiden Deegan can win Anaheim 1 because I think that alone is a really good storyline.
Yeah, that would be, man. And if he starts off this season at all like he did the outdoor season, by that I mean come back home to California and just open a hurting on the competition from the gate drop, then the competition of his or his competitors have a lot of work ahead of them because he has shown that he gets better every offseason, come back stronger. And man, since not much has really changed with his program in terms of his surroundings, I would assume everything that they're working with has only been improved on since last year. Again, to touch on equipment again, it's the Yamaha stuff. So what we talked about on our last video with the Eli Tomac and Cooper Webb. But so KYB stuff front and back. Be curious to see what he's running, if he's got the air forks, the hybrid air forks, or the full air forks. And then more than likely, it'll just be the very common KYB A-kit shock. And the biggest differentiator we'll look out for, if whether it is the triple adjuster on the compression adjuster, or if it is the more traditional Yamaha style DCC adjuster that they call it.
Yeah, with Haiden, I don't have much to say as far as expectations, because I think we all know the dude's going to go out, work hard, snag multiple race wins. And then if he's not on the top step of the box, I expect him to be second or third, right behind the first or second place finisher. So let's move on to arguably his biggest title rival, Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki's Levi Kitchen. Second year with the team, but one of the new things for him is an all-new bike. The new 2025 KX250 has major updates to the suspension componentry. Not so much suspension componentry for Levi, because he has been on A-Kit Pro Circuit tuned Showa suspension for quite a while now, but the production bike had KYB suspension front and rear. It has now moved over to a Showa suspension front and rear, same suspension that is seen on the 24 and 25 KX450. It also shares the same chassis. And then the 25 KX50 has a lot of engine updates to go along with that as well. So do you think Levi Kitchen coming in hot and heavy, ready to go for the 25 season? Or do you think there'll be a little bit of bike fiddling in the first few rounds of the season?
I've always been led to believe in this. By this, I mean the media narrative that I've read growing up is that Pro Circuit has heavily been the company that kind of develops the Kawasaki 250. So whatever stock bike we see, for instance, the 2025, Pro Circuit was likely already doing some of those mods or pushing some of those updates and changes for the next generation stock bikes. So hopefully come A1, the bike is dialed, and it's just a matter of Levi feeling like, not feeling, but really determined to start off this season better than he did last year. Because last year, stuff just didn't really work out in his favor more often than not. And that a lot of that's luck. So I really hope this come around season, that luck goes the opposite way and it works in his favor. But a lot of that's just putting yourself in positions where that doesn't happen. And Ricky talked about just getting good starts really removes a lot of those bad scenarios that can happen to you.
Some of the other riders I want to touch on real quick before we wrap up the episode. Monster Energy Pro Circuit Kawasaki's Garrett Marchbank is back with the team after a few years at Club MX. He's also going West Coast and lining up against some of these guys we talked about earlier. Red Bull KTM Factory Racing's Julian Beaumer recently signed a new deal with One Industries, looking super sick. I almost said super fly, but that would have been not inappropriate, but a little bit mixed match, I would say. I caught a sneak peek of him just the other day riding at the KTM test track, just a stone's throw away from our shop here in Murrieta, California. He looked super smooth, and along with him is Rockstar Energy Gas rider, Ryder Di Francisco. A little bit of change of scenery as far as the aesthetic. Different gear, different energy drink sponsor as well. So maybe a little bit more attention getting thrown to Ryder D's way heading into another year, a full Supercross competition as well. So what do you think of those three riders who have the best season? Ryder D, Garrett Marchbanks, or Juju Julian Beaumer?
Ooh, I'm going with Juju, man. I think I really liked what I saw from him last year. He obviously seemed to be a natural at Supercross. He kicked ass when he was racing futures. And then immediately he was getting some hole shots and leading some races in his rookie season. Now, don't get me wrong, he would get past and lose a couple positions, but just to have that raw speed, confidence, and ability, I think he's going to be the most improved from last year. And it was keep seeing him continue to improve this year and throughout his future pro career. I think oftentimes you see pro riders reach the pro ranks and the rate at which they improve kind of slows down a little bit. It's almost like they reach their pinnacle of their speed, and understandably they're hauling ass, but some pros are still able to find extra speed each season. And I think Juju's one of those guys that will keep seeing improve season after season, year in and year out, and get better. And he's also a little bit young, meaning in relation to the other riders, I think Juju's maybe 19 or 20 now. So he's going to keep developing as a individual and get bigger and bigger, and be able to manhandle that bike even more, which there's a certain amount of strength, I believe, that really helps with Supercross. Because in order to pivot that bike as quickly as you need to in some turns and really manipulate it and maybe do some saves when the bike kicks sideways. It really helps have some extra mass and strength to manhandle that bike.
Speaking of mass and strength, I was thinking of my pick, who is going to be the best out of those three. And I was kind of between Garrett Marchbanks, who is super big dude. I think he is like a mountain man, especially on a 250. And I was kind of in between him and Bill Mayer, but I'm going to follow suit with you and pick Juju. I like what I saw from him during the SMX series, getting out front, putting himself in a good position, leading laps.
Yeah, good point. Because just that transition from Supercross to motocross and back to SMX, it was very apparent he had already improved on SX some more. And he seemed to struggle in the whoops compared to the other riders. Not saying he's not a good whoop rider, but compared to the top guys he's racing against, I imagine he likely spent a lot of time this season getting better in the whoops. I think that's going to translate elsewhere on the track. By that, I mean leading into that corner, feeling a lot more confident. I'm going to fucking smash these. And then exiting the whoop section, entering that corner with way more speed and just more confidence all around the track. I know when I ride, if there's a certain section on the track I don't like, I tend to think of that section the entire fucking time I'm on the track until I come back around to it. So I'm thinking, oh, what am I going to do? Versus other tracks where if I'm riding the whole track and all the sections with no issue, I tend to have a lot more fun and confidence the entire time.
Let us know your title pick and dark horse pick for the 2025 West Coast and or Lights Championship. We're super excited to see all of these riders plus more on the gate in just a day's time at Angel Stadium in Anaheim, California. Thank you guys for watching the final installment of our Monster Energy Supercross Rider Review Series. We'll have JBI race recaps coming up every single week after the races. So stay tuned for that and be sure to subscribe to the Ride JBI YouTube channel if you haven't already. Thank you guys for watching and we will see you guys in the next episode.
Peace.